Welcome to Trent's DIY Adventures. Today's project, we're going to fix the starter going out on my 2012 F250 6.2 liter. Early signs, it's making a grinding noise. When I go to start, it won't start, just grinds and then it stops. Today it did it twice in a row, and then the third time it hit and started up. So before I go on any big trips or get stranded around town, I'm going to go ahead and change out that starter. So here I have the truck up on some ramps. I've got the parking brake set, the back wheels chalked, and I'll get underneath and show you where the starter is located at. And for today's repair, the parts we'll be using will be a Reman Ultima starter from O'Reilly's. Lifetime warranty, well, you know, the typical limited lifetime warranty. I called the local Ford dealer. They wanted 220 bucks or so exchange. This one was 145, so this is one we're going to go with today. So I am underneath the truck. There's the oil pan. There's the starter on the passenger side of the truck, right next to the nice hot exhaust. Looks like we have 2 bolts, your positive cables, and on this one we've got your ground cables here. So we got to take those off, but first we're going to disconnect the power at the battery, and there might be a hidden one up top, which could be kind of fun to get to. So we'll take a look. So here's the new Reman starter. Kind of looking at it kind of the same way. So we have the bottom bolt, top bolt, you got your battery cables on the solenoid, and as it rotated over, there's going to be this bolt hole here on top that we're going to have to find a way of getting access to in order to be able to change out this starter. So let's see. Okay, so on the battery end, there was this little cover. It just slid off. Just pushed on the terminals up there. That just popped off. So it looks like I'm going to take off the positives first. We've got a 13 and a 10. And then this one here was a 13, and I'm sure the one on the back side is going to be a 13 there. So I've got that bolt, and then I got to be able to reach up around somehow and get up into that one. So before I go too far, not sure if I can get a good angle at this. Right back underneath here, the bottom of your transmission is your access panel to view your flywheel and to remove torque converter bolts. So there you can kind of see flywheel. And you know, it does have some wear marks on the teeth, but I'm not fully rotated around, but I'm not seeing anything on there that really, and I'm not a professional mechanic. We do have a few broken, have 1 or 2 rounded off teeth in there from the Bendixson. It could be from early on. They look kind of fresh, but for the most part, all the other teeth look pretty good. You really can't get a good wrench on the crank to turn those. I think I'm okay. I'm thinking it's just early signs of the starter going out, so we'll proceed with the repair. And up here on the starter, I now have all the wires off. And you know, pro tip, again, if you haven't done this before, I'm familiar with it. Take a picture of where the wires went, and then I am putting back the nuts on the studs that they came off of. I will on this one when I'm done with it. That way I will remember where they go. So finally got that bad boy out. Well, that top one's a doozy, but well, we got the starter hole opened up. Another look at the flywheel in this position. We're looking, I think the flywheel looks pretty good again. Okay, I thought this might be easier to show you what tools to use, where, when, how, that type of deal while we're outside on the ground, instead of jammed up underneath the engine compartment. So again, here's your solenoid and your starter. Have the bolts put back in place. We have this little protector, battery protector here to keep it from grounding against the frame. A crossmember that it has up there, you know, accidentally maybe causing a spark or crossways. Just a little protector there. This nut here is a 13 mil. You can use just a 13 mil socket on a ratchet to get that off, and then finger tight. There is a third stud and bolt down here. This should be a grounding strap that goes directly into the starter. You don't have to take that off or mess with any of that stuff, so you can ignore that one. But that's just a shallow 13. This is a shallow 10. I used ratchet, got them loose, and then they were able to hand tight. And this is the bottom one that had the ground wires to. That's a 13 shallow. And so once that nut came off, it was a 13 deep socket. Just to give my ratchet head enough space, I had to use a 13 deep with an extension to get the ratchet head beyond the body to get that one pulled off. And then same thing on the next, same thing on this bolt here. That is also a 13. I switched back over to the shallow and got that one off, and again had to leave the extension on there so I get past the solenoid. The fun one, so we take that one out. The fun one was on this very back side back here. I had to feel around. It's a nice little indentation in the insulation. Made it nice to help locate, but it was still kind of a blind, well, it is a blind bolt. And I had to use my shorter 1/4 inch ratchet with a 13 shallow with a little bit of an extension on there, and to get up in there. And it was 2 clicks of the ratchet all the way through, getting that bolt all the way out of the bell housing. Once it comes out of the bell housing, you don't have to get it all the way out of the starter, because the starter will fall out, and then you can replace it there. That is kind of the process. If you had a 3/8 stubby, you might have been able to use your all 3/8 stuff. I didn't use any impact. Everything was hand tool. Or if you had cordless ratchet, you probably could have used those as well. But I just have, you know, a little Stanley set that I was able to use those, get those pulled out. So now when we go back in, the bolt with the stud will go down here, and we'll have our other 13 here, and we'll have the third one back here. So this one back here is my blind one. I think I am going to actually get some painter's tape and tape that on until I find, and I can even tape that, you know, somewhat in there, or get some electrical tape or something to tape that in position while I'm putting that in place. So that way I'm not having to find that bolt hole up and around in a blind spot. I did notice on this one that I purchased from O'Reilly's, it does come with new hardware on these studs, new nuts, so I don't have to reuse those in case you lost them or something. At least this one came with replacement hardware, which is nice. So now let's get back into install. I don't know if this is going to work, but I just kind of have that bolt wrapped up with some painter's tape to hopefully keep that from falling out while I go to slide that back into position. And then once it's in and tight, I can peel that off and take that tape out, and I'm back up centered. So putting it up, the tape did and did not help. It helped get the alignment up there initially, so I could get this bolt started, hand tighten that one down so that way the starter wasn't flopping around, moving around on me. I did also start this one so we had an alignment. I didn't tighten them all the way. I left them just a little bit loose so starter could still move around until I got that top one out. I ended up having to take that top bolt all the way out to get the tape undone, because as soon as I went to go remove it, it got stuck around the head and I couldn't get it off. So then I ended up having to find the bolt hole again. It wasn't too bad, but the tape idea definitely worked. I just didn't execute it very well. I don't know what the torque specs are. I hand tighten them down the best I can. And I did want to touch base on this bottom stud. I think in the previous section I showed long extension on the deep well socket I actually had to use a shorty extension on the deep well to get the ratchet head out here. I was bumping into the frame or the cross member and this bracket here with the long extension, so I couldn't do that, so I had to switch to a shorty here. And then going up top to get this one up here, the shorty didn't work. I was up against the solenoid too much. Get my ratchet up over into this area in order to get to that long bolt. So now that it is up in there, now it is time to get the wires reconnected. Okay, wires are back in place. And I can take that, push that back into place. Keeps that from arcing, causing any arcs. So order of putting the wires back on. So you get your ground wires here. I stuck those on first, so I was free of these wires with the ratchet coming in. Put the small wire on the small stud in the back. Get that tightened down so you're not running into this one with your ratchet or wrench or whatever you're using. And then you can put this one on with a, again, that's 10 millimeter and a 13 millimeter on that nut. So starter's installed. Now we get to hook up the battery again and give it a test start. See how we did. Okay, here's the start test. Power cycle. Truck started great. Now it's going through its reboot deal. So again, overall, the job wasn't too bad. I did that in probably an hour and a half with filming and set up and tear down. Everything else was about an hour and a half. So on your own, with average skills, some hand tools, you could do the job yourself. If you're already frustrated, pissed off because you're having to change a starter, I probably wouldn't attempt it at that time, because that one bolt that's all tucked up, that blind bolt tucked in the back, that can be super frustrating. So make sure you kind of have some time to have some patience and be willing to handle and tackle that blind bolt, because it can get frustrating. But other than that, the job actually isn't too bad. I did this as a preventative issue. Going on a camping trip over the Memorial Day weekend, I didn't want to get stuck in our out-of-town destination and not be able to get parts and be able to fix the issue and not be able to get home. So probably a little premature. I probably could have ran the starter a little bit longer before it completely failed. But then when you do that, run the risk of getting stranded somewhere. Hope this helped you out. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day.